Smoke hung in the sky like thick clouds of ash. Trees had fallen. Burnt leaves scattered across the broken battlefield. The screams had faded, but the air was still full of tension. The ground was torn and cracked, the result of weapons too advanced to belong to either side. Something had come between the two warring factions and left destruction behind. She crawled from beneath a fallen branch, her fur covered in dust. Her long ears twitched as she listened for movement. Her name was Ayla, a scout from the Vailari, a warrior race known across sectors for their speed and silence. Her silver tail curled close as she stood. The jungle she knew had been destroyed in just minutes. None of her squad responded to her calls. But then, she heard it. A sound that made her freeze. It was not a groan or a cry for help. It was laughter. Low, deep, rough. A laugh that didn't match the scene of war. A laugh that echoed through smoke and ruin like someone had just won a game. She moved slowly toward the sound, keeping low, her sharp eyes scanning every piece of wreckage. She expected to find a group of enemy soldiers mocking the dead. Instead, she saw one figure, a human. He was sitting on the ground with his back against a tree trunk. One arm hung at a wrong angle. His leg was twisted, yet blood did not cover him. There was no fear in his eyes, no pain on his face, only that strange, terrifying smile. He looked up as she approached, locking eyes with her as if he had known she was coming. Ayla raised her weapon slowly, unsure if he was friend or foe. He chuckled again. "Hey," he said, voice rough but calm. "You should see the other guy." She didn't understand his words, but his tone made her ears flatten. Then, without warning, he grabbed his broken arm with his other hand and twisted it back into place with a loud crack. Ayla gasped, stepping back in shock. No cry, no scream, just a laugh from his mouth as the bone snapped into its socket. He winced slightly but kept smiling. "You're not one of them," he said, nodding toward the fallen machines in the distance. She shook her head slowly. Her eyes were locked on his arm, now hanging properly, though bruised and swollen. The way he had reset it was like he had done it before. More than once. Like it was normal. "What are you?" she whispered. He stood wobbling for a second, but then steadying himself. His armor was scratched but still held together. His muscles tensed as he moved, but he didn't limp. He looked like something built to survive pain. "Human," he replied. "Name's Rook." She didn't speak. She couldn't. He had just cracked his bones into place with his bare hands and smiled like it was a joke. Then he glanced around. "This jungle's not safe," he said. "If you're not with them, then you're with me. Let's move." He didn't wait for her answer. He just started walking into the smoke, limping only slightly, each step full of strange strength. Ayla looked around once more. No one else? Alive. No sound except his fading footsteps. She followed, not because she trusted him, but because in that moment she feared what might find her if she didn't. And somehow, she feared him a little less. Ayla moved quickly through the broken trees, keeping a short distance behind the strange human. The ground beneath her feet still shook slightly from distant explosions. The smoke thinned the farther they walked, but the jungle didn't feel safe. Nothing felt safe after what she saw. He moved like he wasn't hurt, even though his body said otherwise. His leg had been twisted badly. His arm should have been useless. Yet he marched forward with focused eyes and steady breath. His name echoed in her head. Rook. Humans were rare in this sector. Her kind had only seen them in old footage or battle reports. Rumors said they were from a place called Earth, a world so violent that everything that survived there became strong beyond reason. Ayla had never believed the stories. But now, she wasn't so sure. She caught up to him as they reached a clearing. The light here cut through the trees, casting soft beams through floating dust. Rook paused and crouched near a fallen pod, brushing leaves from the surface. It was a transport module torn open from the side. He looked inside, grunted, then stood again. "No survivors," he muttered. Ayla looked into the pod. 3 bodies, burned, scorched armor. One of them was clearly human. "You knew them?" she asked. He didn't answer. He just stared for a moment, jaw tight. Then he turned away and walked on. His silence said more than words could. They walked in silence until Ayla finally spoke. "You should not be alive." Rook stopped, turned, his head slightly. "I get that a lot." "No, I mean, your bones, your injuries. No healing device, no help. How are you walking?" He looked down at his own arm like he hadn't even noticed it. Then he laughed softly, not like before, but quieter. "Pain teaches you fast," he said. "Back on Earth, bones break, a lot. Animals bite, cliffs crumble, storms hit harder than missiles. You either learn to stand up or you stay down forever." She tried to imagine what kind of place could be like that. A world where bone snapping was part of life. A world where children learned to survive pain instead of avoid it. They reached a ridge, and Rook crouched down. Ayla joined him. Below them, machines moved through the trees, scanners, drones, and one tall mech with long limbs and glowing red eyes. It was searching for survivors. Ayla's tail curled tight behind her. Those weren't Vylari machines. They belonged to the invaders. "The ones who attacked both their people and the humans they're hunting," she whispered. Rook nodded. "We can't outrun them in the open," he said. "We need to get underground." "Underground?" she asked. "There's no tunnels near here." Rook gave a small grin. "Not natural ones." Before she could ask, he pulled out a small device from his waist belt. It blinked green. He pressed something and a low hum echoed through the earth. A hatch hidden beneath the grass clicked open nearby, its edges covered in moss. Ayla stared, shocked. "You had a bunker here?" "Prep work," he said. "You don't enter a war zone without backup plans." He slid inside. She followed without hesitation. The bunker was dark at first, but then soft blue lights blinked to life. It was small, just enough space for 2. Inside were rations, a scanner, and a medical kit. Rook sat and finally let out a breath, resting, his back against the wall. His skin was pale from strain, but he still smiled. "You hungry?" Ayla didn't know what to say. She had seen soldiers of many worlds, but this one was different, not because of strength or weapons, because he had laughed in pain, because he had snapped his bones into place like it meant nothing, and now he offered food like they weren't being hunted. Something about him didn't make sense, but something about him made her feel safer than before, and that confused her most of all. Ayla sat across from the human, watching him eat with quiet curiosity. Rook didn't act like a soldier who had just crawled out of a war zone. He chewed calmly, unbothered by the dull ache that had to be burning through his body. She could see the swelling in his arm. His shoulder was bruised. Yet not once did he complain. He glanced at her and offered a protein bar. "It doesn't taste good, but it keeps you alive." She accepted it slowly. It was wrapped in strange plastic. She sniffed, at first cautious. Then she took a small bite. The taste was dry, flat, like old dirt. She coughed once, making him chuckle. "Told you," he said. Ayla wiped her mouth. "How can you laugh like this?" Rook leaned back, resting his head on the cool metal wall of the bunker. "If you don't laugh, you go mad." She didn't understand how someone could joke about pain, or smile after losing his team. He had seen death and smiled. She had seen him break and heal himself without a scream. Now he sat like none of it touched him, but it had. She could see it in his eyes. Behind the grin, behind the tough words, there was weight. He was just hiding it. The scanner next to them buzzed softly. Rook checked it. "They're still moving," he said. "About 5 drones and a patrol unit. Headed east." Ayla stood and peered at the small screen. Red dots moved across it like ants. The invaders were searching slowly, sweeping the jungle in patterns. "They don't know we're here," she whispered. "Not yet," Rook replied. "But they will, they always do." She looked at him. "Then we should move." He didn't move. He just kept watching the dots, Not yet, he said. Moving too early is worse than not moving at all. She crossed her arms. You want to wait until they're closer? I want to wait until they're blind. Ayla didn't understand his meaning, but she didn't argue. She sat down again, though her instincts screamed to run. How did your kind survive on a death world? She asked after a moment. Rook gave a small smile. Because no one ever came to help us. We didn't have armor suits or healing pods. We had dirt, fire, teeth, and grit. You fall, you bleed, you get up, or you get eaten. You cry, and something finds you. He looked at her, his voice low now. You learn quick. She felt a chill down her spine. His world sounded cruel, but maybe that was why he was still alive when others weren't. Suddenly the scanner beeped 3 times. Rook leaned forward. They've released a sweeper drone. Ayla stiffened. That's a heat tracker. It will find this bunker. Unless we confuse it, he said. He opened a side hatch and pulled out a strange canister. With a quick twist, it began to release mist. Cold vapor filled the small space. Ayla gasped at the sudden chill. It will mask our heat for a while, Rook said. The light dimmed. Ayla hugged herself, shivering. Rook didn't flinch. We wait 10 minutes. If they don't detect us, they'll move on. She stared at him through the mist. You've done this before. He nodded slowly. Too many times. Time passed slowly. Every second stretched. They sat in silence, side by side, hearing only the soft hum of machines above. Ayla's ears twitched with every small sound, but after 15 minutes the scanner beeped again. This time, a long tone. They're gone, Rook said. He stood up and reached for his pack. Now we move. Ayla followed, stepping out into the jungle once more. But this time she didn't see him as a wounded human. She saw him as something different, something dangerous, something the machines should fear. The jungle outside was quiet again, but it wasn't peace. It was the silence that came after machines had passed through. Even birds had gone still. Ayla stepped carefully behind Rook, her eyes scanning the tall trees, the broken branches, the soft trails left by metal feet. Rook moved, with a strange rhythm, not fast, not slow, but steady. He checked behind rocks. He watched the sky. He touched the ground like he was reading it. It was strange for a species known for chaos and violence, but he was focused, careful, like a hunter. Ayla began to trust his pace, even if she didn't. Understand it, we're headed west, he said. There's an old outpost near the ridge. If the power cells are still active, we can call for evac. She nodded. Will your people come? He didn't answer right away. They might, he said, if there's anything left of them. That silence hit harder than any gunshot. They moved through thick vines and tall roots. Once a scout drone buzzed low overhead. Rook dropped flat into a muddy ditch, pulling Ayla down with him. She gasped as the cold mud touched her fur, but she didn't fight it. The drone passed. Still, they waited 5 minutes before moving again. You seem more like a soldier than a scout, she said as they walked. I'm both, Rook replied. When your team gets wiped out enough times, you learn to do everything. How many times have you been the last one standing? Rook didn't speak. His silence told her more than numbers. Suddenly he raised a hand. Ayla stopped. He pointed. To the ground. A faint metal wire ran across the soil. Barely visible. But it was there. Trip mine, Rook muttered. Smart tech, hidden under leaves. Pressure triggered. Ayla's eyes widened. They've booby-trapped the forest? He nodded. They expect survivors. She stared at the wire. If he hadn't seen it, she would have stepped on it. Without a doubt. Rook pulled out a tool from his wristband. He leaned forward and clipped the wire carefully. The small device powered down with a faint click. He stood and dusted off his hands. That's the third one today, he said. She stared at him in disbelief. You've been disabling them all this time? You didn't notice? She shook her head. He gave a half smile. That's the point. They kept moving, now slower. The trees began to thin, and sunlight returned in patches. A breeze carried, the smell of burnt leaves and static, signs of recent combat. Then they saw it, a large crater in the earth, blackened around the edges. The center held the remains of a transport craft, crushed, its wings ripped off. Rook moved fast, climbing down into the crater. Ayla followed, more cautious. The wreck was still warm. He kicked open a panel and reached inside. Wires sparked. Then a small blinking light appeared. "Still has backup power," he said. He pulled out a small cube, an encrypted comm beacon. "If I can boost the signal, I can call any nearby human patrols." He turned it over, checking the connectors. "Can you do it?" Ayla asked. He smiled again. "I've done worse with less." He dropped to one knee and started working, pulling tools from his belt and rewiring the unit. Sparks flew. His fingers worked fast despite the stiffness in his arm. Ayla kept watch, her weapon raised, but her eyes kept drifting back to him. How could someone laugh while resetting bones? How could someone smile while carrying the weight of the dead? How could someone work calmly while enemies hunted them from all sides? He was not normal, not even by human standards. A loud click pulled her back. Rook stood, holding the cube in the air. "Signal's hot," he said. "Now we wait and hope someone's listening." She looked around the crater. "No one's coming soon. We'll need to hold this ground." He nodded, stepping up beside her. "Then we hold." And as the sun dipped lower, casting golden light, over the jungle the two stood shoulder to shoulder. The hunter and the scout, a broken human, and a warrior, who now believed the stories might be true. Ayla knelt beside a rock at the edge of the crater, her sharp eyes scanning the tree line. The comm beacon pulsed with a soft blue light behind her. It meant someone might hear them, or someone might find them. The jungle had gone quiet again. That made her nervous. Rook sat near the wreck, adjusting the straps of his armor. One side of his chest plate was bent inward from the crash, but he didn't remove it. He only shifted it to breathe better. "Your injuries," Ayla said softly. "They're getting worse." He flexed his arm and winced slightly, but gave her a grin. "Bones heal," he said. "If they don't poke out, I'm good." She blinked at his answer. "That is not normal." He shrugged. "Neither is laughing at death, but here we are." She didn't know what to make of him. Every hour spent near this human only deepened her confusion. He wasn't a machine, but he acted like one when it came to pain. He wasn't reckless, yet he ran toward danger. He joked in silence. He smiled while bleeding, and he never asked for help. The scanner on Rook's wrist flashed red. He stood quickly. Movement. 2 drones coming from the south. 1 walker behind. Ayla tightened her grip on her weapon. They followed the signal. "No," he said. "This is routine sweep. Wrong place, wrong time." He looked around, eyes sharp. "We hold this spot. They can't see the beacon. They'll scan the wreck, then move on. What if they spot us?" Rook looked at her, serious now. "Then we kill fast. No noise, no mess." She nodded. They took positions. Ayla behind a fallen support beam, Rook near a chunk of metal plating. Minutes passed. The air grew heavy. Then came the hum, low, vibrating. The drones hovered in slowly from the trees, scanning with red beams. A tall walker followed behind, legs shifting with mechanical grace. Ayla held her breath. 1 drone floated close to her cover. Too close. Suddenly a sharp clang echoed. The drone jolted, its red eye flashing once, then dimming. It hit the ground. In silence, Rook had thrown a blade, 1 precise hit through the sensor. Before the other drone reacted, he was already moving. Fast. Faster than she thought a wounded body could move. He jumped from cover, grabbed the drone, and slammed it into the wreck's edge. It sparked and collapsed. The walker turned instantly, red lights locking on Rook. But it was too slow. Ayla leapt into action, vaulting over the wreckage, and fired her plasma bow. 2 shots hit the mech's joints. Rook rolled beneath its long legs and jammed a shock charge onto its back. 1 flash. 1 pulse. The walker froze, then dropped. Silence returned. Ayla stood with her weapon still raised. Rook leaned against the metal, panting lightly. "Still got it," he muttered. She walked, to him eyes wide. You were injured. You shouldn't have been able to move like that. He looked at her with a smirk. That's the trick, you move anyway. She stared at him. This time it wasn't confusion she felt. It was fear. Not because he was dangerous, to her, but because she now understood what the stories meant. Humans didn't win by strength. They didn't win by tech. They won because they refused to stop, even when broken, even when hunted, even when left alone in alien jungles. They didn't. Stop. The beacon pulsed again. A new light blinked. Rook checked it. His face changed slightly. Signal confirmed, he said. A squad picked it up. They're 20 clicks out. Ayla let out a breath. Then we survive until they arrive. He nodded, then sat down again, finally letting his muscles rest. But don't relax yet, he said. More will come, and next time it won't be just drones. She sat beside him, watching the jungle shadows shift. The war wasn't over. The hunt wasn't done. But for now, she wasn't alone, and that made her feel stronger than she had in days. Darkness fell fast in the jungle. The trees blocked the sky, and the smoke from earlier battles still drifted in the air. Ayla and Rook sat near the wreckage, backs to the metal, watching the shadows grow. The beacon still blinked. Help was coming. But the hours felt long, and safety still far away. Rook cleaned a small knife with a cloth, his arm still stiff, but steady. Ayla watched him silently. She had many questions, too many, but only one stayed in her mind. Do you feel fear? Rook paused. He looked up, expression calm. Every day, he said. Ayla tilted her head. You don't act like it. That's because fear doesn't stop me. She lowered her eyes. It stops most people. It used to stop me too. He placed the knife down beside him, then leaned back with a soft sigh. There was a time I couldn't even move after a crash. Couldn't breathe through the pain. My hand was broken, my ribs crushed. I just lay there. What changed? She asked. His voice dropped lower. I watched something crawl toward me. Some beast from our world. It had smelled blood. I had two choices. Let it kill me or feel the pain and fight back. He looked at his hand. I snapped my wrist into place. Then used it. She understood now. That moment had shaped him. Fear had once ruled him. But pain had become a tool. Your world sounds cruel, she said. Rook gave a dry smile. It made us this way. Suddenly, a sound echoed from the trees. A soft clicking. Not a drone. Something else. Ayla stood quickly. Movement. Rook was already crouched. Not machines. Something stalking. They both scanned the dark tree line. Shapes moved between trunks. Not metal. Not glowing. Silent. Ayla's fur bristled. Hunters, Rook whispered. They're using creatures now? She nodded. Native beasts, fast, sharp, used by slavers. They track by scent. He looked around. The bodies from earlier. They'll smell blood. Ayla raised her weapon. We have to move. Rook stood, body tense. We can't lead them to the evac squad. Then what? We lead them away first, then circle back. Ayla didn't argue. She trusted him now, more than her own training. They moved fast into the trees, staying low, using shadows. Behind them, soft growls echoed through the dark. Heavy paws pressed against leaves. Eyes gleamed in the distance. One beast charged. Rook turned, grabbed a thick branch and slammed it into the side of the charging creature. The beast yelped, rolled, then got up again. Too fast. Too many. Ayla fired a plasma bolt, hitting one in the leg. It fell. Another lunged. Rook didn't hesitate. He grabbed it midair and slammed it into a tree with full force. His shoulder screamed in pain, but he didn't stop. His hand bled from claws, but he stayed standing. Ayla was shocked. No armor, no shield, only will. Keep moving, he shouted. They ran through the jungle, dodging roots and ducking under vines. The growls chased them. But after a mile, the sounds began to fade. Finally, they stopped behind a thick rock wall, panting. They stopped, she said. For now, Rook replied. Ayla looked at his arm. The scratches were deep. His shoulder was worse. She reached for her med kit. "No," he said. "Save it. You're bleeding." "I've bled worse." She didn't listen. She cleaned his wound quickly, pressing a healing patch against the worst cut. He looked at her, surprised. "You're not bad at this." "I'm not doing it for kindness," she said. "If you fall, I'm alone again." He smiled weakly. "Fair enough." The jungle was quiet again. The beasts had given up. Ayla sat beside him. For a moment they rested. Then she spoke softly. "You are the strangest being I've ever met." Rook looked at her and laughed. "Good. I'd hate to be normal." And even in that dark jungle, hunted and wounded, they both smiled, because for the first time in days they didn't feel like prey. They felt like survivors. The night air grew colder as the stars peeked through broken gaps in the canopy. Small insects buzzed in the dark, and distant rumbles echoed like whispers of danger. Ayla sat with her back against the stone, eyes half closed but alert. She didn't sleep anymore. Not like she used to. Rook beside her rested with one hand gripping a sharp metal rod. His head was tilted down, eyes closed, breathing slow. But she knew he wasn't asleep, just quiet, listening, waiting. "How long do you think it will take them to reach us?" she asked quietly. "Depends," he said without opening his eyes. "If the evac team ran into patrols, we're on our own a while longer." She looked toward the path they'd come from. "We could go meet them halfway." "We could," he said. "But we'd also run straight into whatever's between us and them." Ayla sighed. "Always planning for the worst? Always expecting it?" Rook corrected. She shook her head. "You humans don't hope much, do you?" Rook opened his eyes slowly. "We do. But we don't rely on it." He stood up slowly, testing his weight. His legs still bent stiffly, but he pushed through. Ayla had stopped being surprised by that. He walked over to a fallen log and stared at something on the ground. Ayla joined him. Tracks. Long claw marks in the dirt. Deep and fresh. "They're circling back," he said. Ayla's ears twitched. "The beasts." He nodded. "They didn't give up. They were just waiting." Suddenly the comm beacon pulsed again, this time with a green ring. Rook checked it. "They're close. 5 clicks out. ETA 20 minutes. Ayla stood tall. "Then, we need to survive just 20 more minutes," Rook smiled. Easier said than done. A low growl echoed from the east, then another from the west. The jungle came alive again with sound. Snapping branches, shifting leaves, soft snarls from the shadows. "They've surrounded us," Ayla whispered. Rook checked his gear. "No bunker, this time. We fight here." Ayla raised her plasma bow, adjusting the charge. "I have 10 shots left." Rook tapped his belt. 2 charges, 1 knife, 1 broken rib. She looked at him with concern. "You're injured." "I've been injured since this morning," he said. "Didn't stop me then." The first beast lunged from the trees. Ayla fired instantly, striking it mid-air. It dropped hard. Another charged from behind. Rook swung the metal rod, smashing it to the ground. Blood sprayed, but not his. Then came the rush. 4 beasts at once. Fast. Silent. Ayla fired 3 shots. 2 hit. 1 missed. Rook threw a shock charge, stunning one mid-leap. Another beast clawed at his side, but he didn't scream. He grabbed it by the throat and slammed it into the dirt. They moved like a team now. No words, just trust. One guarded the other's blind spots. One warned with a glance, another growl. A larger shape appeared in the trees. Taller, scarred, alpha beast. It roared, shaking the leaves above. Rook stepped forward. "Keep shooting," he said. "I'll take this one." "You can't." But he was already running. He met the beast head on. It knocked him down. Claws ripped his shoulder, but he didn't stop. He laughed, a deep, wild laugh. He grabbed its leg, twisted it, then drove the knife straight into its gut. It howled in pain. Ayla fired the last shot at its eye. The beast fell. Rook dropped beside it, Breathing hard, she rushed. To him. "Rook, stay awake." He coughed, smiled. "That was fun." "You're bleeding." He looked down. "Ah, so I am." She pulled him up, dragging him behind the rock. 2 minutes, she whispered. "They're almost here." More growls in the distance, but fewer now. The beasts had lost their alpha, and they feared the one who laughed through pain. The smell of burnt plasma and blood hung in the air. Ayla crouched beside Rook, pressing a clean cloth against his shoulder wound. His armor was torn. One side of his chest barely moved when he breathed. But his eyes were still open, still watching the jungle. "How long?" he whispered. She checked the beacon. 1 minute. Rook gave a small nod, then leaned back against the rock wall. His knuckles were raw, his blade bent, and his side still bleeding. But even now, he didn't groan. He just exhaled like someone finishing a long day of work. "You saved me," Ayla said. He looked at her and raised one eyebrow. "Pretty sure you shot the alpha beast in the eye? You shouldn't have charged it. Would have been boring if I didn't." Despite everything, she almost laughed. The jungle remained quiet now. No more growls, no more rustling. The beasts were gone or hiding. A faint hum echoed in the distance. Ayla looked up. Lights moved between the trees, soft blue glows scanning slowly. Not drones, not enemy tech. It was human. "They're here," she said. The lights grew brighter, revealing armored shapes moving through the trees, 5 figures in combat suits scanning the area with sharp focus. They reached the crater within seconds, weapons raised. "Identify," one shouted. Ayla stood slowly. "Vailari scout, and one human." The lead soldier moved closer and looked down at Rook. "Rook?" Rook smiled weakly. "Took you long enough." "Report." "Crashed. Survived. Got attacked, killed everything, made a friend." The soldier stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Get him stabilized," he ordered. 2 medics rushed forward. Ayla stepped back as they worked, spraying sealant foam over his wounds and setting a temporary brace over his leg. Rook winced once. Just once. "You did good," one medic said. Rook grunted. "Try better next time." The lead soldier turned to Ayla. "You helped him?" She nodded. "He saved me first." "You armed?" "Yes." "You trust him?" She looked at Rook, who gave her a small grin as the medics worked. "I do," she said. The soldier looked surprised but said nothing. "We'll evac both of you," he said. "Nearest base is 40 clicks out. We leave in 10. Ayla turned to Rook. "Can you move?" He looked down at his bandaged limbs and smirked. "Do I have a choice?" "Not really." "Then yeah, I'll move." The team lifted him gently. He insisted on walking with help, refusing the stretcher twice before the medics finally gave up. As they moved through the jungle, Ayla stayed beside him. "You could have died," she said. He looked at her. "You too. Why didn't you let me run when the alpha came?" "Because that's not what humans do." She didn't know how to answer that, so she walked silently. The soldiers talked in low voices. One asked how Rook had survived so long. Another whispered that he was crazy. Ayla already knew that. But she also knew something else. The machines hadn't scared her the way he did, not because he was cruel, but because he refused to stop. Even with broken bones, even when outnumbered, even when the pain should have crushed him. He smiled, and somehow, that smile gave her strength. They reached the edge of the jungle just as the dropship lowered from the sky, its lights cutting through the trees like a sunrise. Ayla looked at Rook one more time. "You laugh at pain. You walk with broken bones. You fight like you've already died once." Rook raised an eyebrow. "You say that like it's a bad thing." She smiled faintly. "No. I say that because now I understand why your kind is feared." He chuckled. "Good. Took you long enough." And for the first time, Ayla laughed too. Not because it was funny, but because she had finally found someone who made the darkness feel less heavy. The dropship lifted slowly from the jungle floor. its engines humming softly as it carried them into the sky. Ayla sat near one of the side panels, looking out through the narrow window. The forest below shrank quickly. The wreckage, the beasts, and the blood disappearing beneath layers of green and smoke. She hadn't realized how heavy her body felt until now. Rook sat across from her, strapped into the crash seat with a brace over his chest and his arm now in a proper sling. One leg was still stiff, but his eyes were sharp again. He didn't sleep. He didn't even close his eyes. He watched, always alert, like he didn't know how to rest. The medic next to him checked his vitals, frowning at the readings. "You should be unconscious," the medic muttered. Rook grinned. "Maybe later." The soldier beside Ayla leaned over. "That's the third time we've pulled him out of something like this." She raised an eyebrow. "He's done this before?" The soldier nodded. "Twice this cycle, same sector. Keeps surviving where no one else does. Makes us wonder if he's lucky, or cursed." Ayla looked back at Rook. He was joking with the medic, now laughing softly as if none of it mattered. But she saw through the act. His smile wasn't hiding pain. It was controlling it. The dropship passed above a burned-out valley. Smoke still rose from a destroyed base below. Ayla's ears twitched. "That was a Violari outpost," she whispered. The soldier beside her looked down too, wiped clean. "No signals. No bodies found either. Just gone." She turned back to Rook. "What are they doing?" "Erasing," he said without needing to look. "Not just killing, erasing proof." Ayla frowned. "Why?" "Because fear spreads faster than war." The dropship jerked slightly as it slowed for descent. A human outpost sat ahead, tucked between high cliffs with shield walls and tall towers. Guards walked the perimeter. It looked secure, but Ayla had seen enough to know safety was never certain. They landed without words. Medics rolled a stretcher for Rook. He waved it away and limped off the ramp with Ayla's help. Inside, the base was clean. Bright lights, sterile halls. But it felt wrong. Too calm after everything. A commander met them at the entrance. "Scout Ayla of the Velari," he said. "You're cleared to stay here until transport can return you to your people." She bowed slightly. "Thank you." Then the commander turned to Rook. "And you? You were supposed to report back 2 weeks ago." Rook nodded. "Got busy. You were out of contact. We assumed you were dead." "Close enough." The commander sighed. "You're lucky we still monitor old signals." "I make my own luck," Rook replied. The commander looked at both of them. "We've intercepted more enemy chatter. Something is moving across the sector, fast. Wiping out outposts, scout teams, and bases. They aren't just fighting anymore, they're testing something." Ayla narrowed her eyes. "Like what?" "We don't know yet, but whatever it is, it's not just tech, it's alive." Rook's expression hardened. "They're changing the rules." The commander nodded. "We need survivors like you to help us understand what's coming." Ayla looked to Rook. She already knew what he would say. He shrugged. Wasn't planning on dying today anyway. They escorted him toward the infirmary. He limped beside her, each step slow but steady. "You don't have to keep going," she said softly. He looked at her. "I do," he said. "Because if I don't, someone else breaks next, and maybe they can't laugh through it." She walked beside him, her pace matching his. She had been taught to fear humans, to stay away from Deathworlders. Now she was walking into the next war, beside one. And strangely, that gave her hope. The base buzzed with movement. Soldiers ran from one sector to another, alarms flashing in short bursts of red. Orders echoed through the halls. Something had changed in the air. Everyone could feel it. Ayla stood on the command deck, watching the central map display shift as new data came in. Unknown signals. Massive movement. Not mechanical. Not biological. Something in between. The enemy had begun testing weapons that learned, machines that adapted, and they were no longer targeting just humans. Now they targeted anything that resisted. They're coming here, the commander said. ETA 10 minutes. Ayla nodded. What's the plan? He looked at her grimly. Survive. Down in the med bay, Rook pulled his arm through a new brace. A field medic tried to stop him. You're not cleared for combat. Then unclear me somewhere else, Rook muttered. He stood and buckled a new set of armor over his chest. Lighter, faster, reinforced with kinetic gel. One arm still stiff. Ribs still bruised. But none of that mattered. Pain didn't rule him. He walked through the hall toward the north tower, where Ayla was already preparing. You're limping more today, she said. He grinned, trying to stay stylish. You should rest. I rest after things stop exploding. The alarm blared louder. Red lights filled the hallway. They reached the north defense wall together. Turrets hummed, scanning the sky. The ground outside rumbled faintly, then stronger, and then they saw it. A wave of black machines, four-legged, tall as trees, with liquid-like skin and glowing red joints. No metal, no wires. Just something alive and built to destroy. The soldiers on the wall steadied themselves. Rook looked down and muttered, Well, this is new. Ayla stood beside him, her weapon charged. You're not scared? I'm terrified, he said, but that just means I'm still human. The first creature charged. Turrets opened fire. Plasma rounds lit up the field. One creature dropped, then two. But more kept coming. Stronger, smarter. They reached the wall in minutes. A blast shook the structure. Dust filled the air. Screams below. Then silence. Rook jumped down without waiting. Ayla followed, landing beside him. The smoke cleared just enough to see one of the creatures tearing through a wall. Rook moved first. He shoved a shock grenade into the creature's open spine and rolled back. It exploded in a flash of light. The creature collapsed, twitching. Two more rushed them. Ayla fired twice, hitting one in the leg. Rook met the second with a metal rod, swinging upward into its jaw. It screeched, but didn't fall. It grabbed Rook by the arm. He laughed, then twisted his own arm again, loud crack, and jammed the weapon into the beast's head. It dropped instantly. Ayla stared, heart racing. You broke your arm again, Rook breathed heavily. Didn't need that part anyway. She grabbed him by the back plate and pulled him behind cover. The sky turned red from energy bursts. Soldiers fell. Walls cracked. But something changed in the tide. The beasts paused. Some turned. Others hesitated. They weren't designed to expect this kind of resistance. Not from the broken. Not from the outnumbered. Not from the laughing. Reinforcements arrived from the rear lines, Vylari and humans together. The beasts turned to meet them. Explosions shook the ground. Smoke rose high. And then, silence. The field lay quiet. Wreckage everywhere. Rook sat against a wall, arm wrapped in cloth. Ayla crouched beside him, pressing another patch onto his ribs. You're insane, she whispered. I know. You broke yourself to stop it. It worked, didn't it? She smiled. You really never stop. He leaned his head back, eyes half closed. Stopping's boring. The commander walked up slowly, face dirt-covered, armor dented. You did it, he said. Rook shrugged. Team effort. Ayla stood beside him. No, she said. He's why we're still standing. The commander looked at her. And you? I'm not leaving, she said. Not anymore. They both looked at Rook. He laughed softly, even through the pain. I guess we're all crazy now. For the first time, Ayla didn't feel like a visitor on a foreign world. She felt like a soldier beside someone who didn't need perfect bones or high-tech gear to survive. He only needed his will and a reason to keep getting up. In a galaxy full of weapons, machines, and empires, sometimes the most terrifying thing to face was a human who refused to fall.